As we gather together this morning, this day, may we learn to recognize and affirm the pieces of possibility, the bits of good that we bring. May we encourage rather than control, love rather than possess, enable rather than envy, allowing our individual gifts to weave a patchwork of peace and of hope. The soft, deep blue of sensitivity and understanding, the red energy of creativity, the white heat of convictions, the risky, fragile green of new growth, the golden flashes of gratitude, the warm rose of love. Each one of us is indispensable if we are meant to minister to a broken and wounded world. Together, in our gathered diversity, we form a whole. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. My name is Karen Elliott. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the worship associate for today's service. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working to better welcome and care for one another. Whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. Please take a moment to prepare yourself and your space for our time together this morning. Grab a candle and a way to light it so that you can join in the chalice lighting at home. Now, whether you are lighting a candle or perhaps the inner chalice of your heart, let us kindle our flames with the words of Lori Gorgas Laban in honor of today's being National Coming Out Day. We light our chalice flame for those who lived their lives in closets of shame, for those who furtively visited the bars where nobody knew your name, for the Stonewall riot and the fierce trans women who fought, for the plague, which still takes far too many, too young, too soon. So many gone. So many never lived to see out gay kids singing on TV, out gay people serving in the military, marriage equality, families formed by intention. We light our chalice flame for all these, and for all our siblings of the rainbow, living life out in the open with pride. I now invite you to share in the comments where you are by writing, "I carry the flame" in whatever town or city you are joining us from. And now, please join us in singing our opening song, "All Creatures of the Earth and Sky." The words will be on the screen. Thank you.
Alleluia, alleluia.
Please join with me in saying our covenant. Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Boyle. I am honored to be the Director of Family Ministry here at UUCB. My pronouns are she, hers, hers. And so at this time, if you are young or young at heart, I invite you to sit close and get cozy because this is the time for all ages. In this time for all ages, I want to talk about prayer. In the chat box below, please write what you think prayer may be. Now, I can't see what you're writing, but I imagine some things that are being said are that you have to be on your knees with your hands in front of you in the prayer position, or that it's only for bedtime, or only when something horrible happens, or that you have to believe in God to pray. All of those are correct technically, but they aren't the full picture. For example, did you know that you can pray by dancing? That you can pray by painting a picture? That you can pray by making even something out of Play-Doh? Yes, because we start to see and understand that prayer is not a set of actions, it's a mindset. Prayer is opening yourself up to the universe and sharing your heart. It's a conversation with the holy, whether you believe in a God or not. It's a dialogue. It's a moment where you start realizing and understanding the sacred. Prayer is where reflection happens, where deep understanding happens, where love happens. I want to share with you a different way to pray. So our story unfortunately starts with a sad beginning. On June 10th, 1991, there was a gas pipeline that exploded in the town of Bellingham, Washington. It ripped through the great forest and it burnt through the valley. And unfortunately, 3 people perished in the fire, including 2 boys who were playing in the woods. Chris Munch, an artist who lived in Bellingham, who himself grew up playing in those same woods where those boys were playing and fishing in those same creeks, was struck how this accident destroyed such a beautiful and peaceful place, like the valley, all of a sudden. He couldn't get the black smoke or the fire out of his head. And he really struggled to understand why this happened, how this could happen, and he was reaching for hope in this time of despair. In seeking to understand why, Chris began praying, but he didn't get on his knees or bow his head. He picked up some clay and went to his pottery studio and began to sculpt. He made a vase and he made it bigger and bigger. You see, Chris was a potter. He previously learned about prayer wheels in Buddhism. Prayer wheels, they're common things in the mountainous regions of the world like Tibet or Nepal. Prayer wheels can be as small and handheld as a can of soup like this guy is holding. They can also be bigger. Here's one in India. And they can be even bigger than a 500-gallon drum. Look at this big prayer wheel in China. So inside of the prayer wheel, there is a huge scroll with all the prayers written carefully and then rolled up tightly inside the prayer. Then the scroll, once packed tightly, is attached to the axis with a handle so people can spin it. A full revolution of the prayer wheel is a full prayer. So Chris, he got to work. He carved the salmon that swam in the river, the lush trees and the bears who stood by the river like guards. He spent hours detailing the waterfalls, the stones, the roots. He transferred his sadness and pain from the accident, from his heart into the wheel, into the universe. And in doing so, his actions were his prayer. In creating this beautiful piece of artwork, he felt the hope he thought was lost. And although he would never forget what happened there, he felt like he could move on while still honoring the lives and the nature lost there. As he turned the prayer wheel, one slow revolution, hope blossomed in him. So you can see the bear and the salmon. the river in the middle one. So that's a little bit about one unique way to pray. The lessons here is that you have all the tools of your imagination to pray. You can pray while coloring a coloring book, or while singing a song, or playing an instrument. Heck, I even know some folks who pray while singing in the shower. So friends, go on. Pray while bathing, pray while playing, pray while living. And with that, we are done with our time for all ages. We have religious education today at 12:15. The link is in your email. If you need access, send me an email, family.ministry@uubc.org. And just lastly, Halloween is coming up. We're going to do an online Halloween contest and pumpkin carving costume contest. We'll also do some socially distant candy pickup on Halloween night from 4:30 to 7. Stay tuned to your email. More details will be coming out. With that, I'll see my friends in class. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lonnie Mosley, and I'm sharing my personal reflection on prayer in my life. Before I became a UU, I was a Catholic. I was Catholic because my mom was Catholic. And being a Black Catholic in the 1930s, well, it was hard on her. I think she would have left Catholicism to join my father as an Episcopalian if it were not for the great education that the Catholic schools provide. She knew having a great education was a primary way to deal with racism in America. So she tolerated the nuns and their nonsense, and she tolerated the teachings of Catholicism. But she had her own brand of religion that she taught her children. Instead of nightly prayers to Jesus, we were told to talk to our spirit guides about anything that concerned us. Then in the morning, Mom would ask, "What did your spirit guide tell you in your dream last night?" Now, my mother was a rather strict person and an imposing figure to me and my brothers. And because we rarely remembered any dreams, over time we learned to fake the words of our guides. I would say things to my mom like, "My spirit guide told me to be quieter in school and to not hit my brother." Of course, she was probably laughing as she listened to our made-up spirit guide conversations. But sometimes when we told her what the guides had said, Mother would look at us intently and ask a lot of questions. She took our words very seriously, and so we learned to also take seriously our interactions with the invisible entities and energies that offered guidance. These nightly exercises spiritually shaped me and my brothers. And to this day, when I have trouble or illness or just the malaise of life, they'll sense it and call me with a question. "Did you talk to your spirit guides for help?" But in addition to the spirit guides, there were other invisible people that were part of my family. Mom wasn't big on the Jewish man Jesus like I am. But she and a dead saint called St. Anthony were thick as thieves. St. Anthony is the saint who can find any missing or misplaced object. St. Anthony and my mother had been companions for so long that Mom no longer bothered to even try to remember where she put down her keys or train tickets or our signed report cards. That was for St. Anthony to find. And so whenever she needed him, she'd walk around the house loudly saying in the air the St. Anthony's prayer. I'll put it in the chat for you to read. But if Mother was busy and she couldn't find something she needed, she would say to us kids, "Would you go say a prayer to St. Anthony for me?" Now imagine 3 little children searching and shouting throughout the house to an invisible person that our mother says is real. And of course, there was irrefutable evidence that she was right, because St. Anthony's always found the missing item. And then Mother would merrily simply say, "Thanks, St. Anthony." and go on her way to misplace the next thing she touched. Us kids never questioned the existence of St. Anthony or our mother's sanity. Mom even named her last child Anthony. So these early family activities normalized interacting with invisible energies. As an adult, I'm very comfortable with the weird quantum physics of entanglement, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance. I grew up with spooky actions, and they were quite normal in our house. But I'm so grateful to have grown up in such a strange household, which made real the possibility of energies that can be felt but not seen, energies that are quite responsive when I'm quiet and not a whirling dervish. Praying now as an adult means just listening, not asking for anything, just listening. I love waiting to hear what the universe might say next, and from whom. This morning it talked to me through the rustling of the tree outside my house as a hummingbird hung in the air. Yesterday, the words of my friend Christina were clearly sent by the universe through her to me. And tonight, profound and invisible energies will once again wrap me in unconditional love. And I'll weep in gratefulness and sleep in peace. Thank you.
We've cleared off the table, leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I've told you a story, tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day.
As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea,
I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you have behind when you're done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold. There are boys quiet and kind.
some race on ahead, some follow behind, some go in their own way and time.
Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children, some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give of your friends the best part of yourself, they give the same back to you. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can where your heart leads, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
We now enter a time in our worship services that we make space for our hearts and our spirits, for our cares and concerns for one another. We lift up and hold the joys and sorrows and cares and challenges that we may each be facing. During our time of silence this morning, I invite you to share any joys, sorrows, or significant milestones of your own in the comment section. I invite us all to hold these cares in the compassionate embrace of this loving community. Today, we share a thank you prayer for National Coming Out Day, which is today. Please join with me now in the spirit of prayer. Thank you to the queer and trans ancestors who left us histories to hold on to. Thank you to every kid who is the first in their class or their school or their town or their family who made it a little easier for the next one. Thank you to the elders who fought for yourselves and for the rest. Thank you to the ones who let your freak flag fly. Thank you to the ones who do queer in your own way. Thank you to the ones who take each other in. Thank you for kissing in public and holding hands on the street. Thank you to the ones who share your scars. Thank you to the ones who hold space, no pressure. Thank you, loud ones. Thank you, quiet ones. Thank you to the ones who helped us learn to love our desire, no more shame. Thank you to the ones who helped us learn to love our trans bodies. Thank you to you who are doing what you need to do to survive. We need you. Thank you for persisting, for proclaiming, for being. Thank you to those who have shouldered losses and been fired, betrayed, beaten, bullied, or isolated. Your pain is honored. Your contribution is not forgotten. You deserved so much better. Thank you. Once upon a time, they could say they didn't know us, but not anymore. Here we are, say the many in our community today. Bring our sacred strange into our pews and our pulpits, to our dinner tables, and beside them in waiting rooms and checkout lines. No apologies, for they are lucky to have us here. Thank you to you who are yet to come, who will expand our understanding and help us love more deeply ourselves and each other. Thank you to every LGBT, queer, beloved, trans love who keeps choosing to live, choosing to love, and choosing to support each other. Amen, and blessed be. Let's now join in singing the Spirit of Life.
Pray by Adam Dyer. How will you pray for me? Will you summon your God? Will you call on your symbols? Will you tell me your ritual? Is that all you can say? How will you pray? How will you pray for me? When you see me in chains, will you judge? Will you jury? Will you sentence my stay? How will you pray? How will you pray for me when my head is covered and yours is bare? If my language is ancient and yours barely there? If my best day of rest is your longest day of play? How will you pray? How will you pray for me? Will you see my skin? Will you feel my body? Will you know my mind? Will you understand my words, or will you try to always place them in your particular order and way? How will you pray? How will you pray for me? If I don't pray at all, if I am not called or calling, deemed or damaged, if I see myself not broken but beautiful every day, how will you pray? And if you've never prayed, and if you don't have the time, and if you see faith as sanctified crime and too high a price for your sense of self to pay, can you still look into my eyes, hold my joy, or hear my cries? Can you love me? Love me? Love me? Love me just enough in your own way and pray?
Prayer. It's a practice that's present in many of the world's religious traditions. It is a nearly universal spiritual practice, although it will take on many forms that differ from tradition to tradition and person to person. I admit I've had an uneasy history with prayer myself. Having grown up primarily as a Southern Baptist, prayer was a rather big thing in our churches. Our pastor, Brother Gilbert, seemed to say such eloquent prayers in the services, and our other teachers and leaders did too. Then, when other kids and teens were called on to lead a prayer, they seemed to have the right words too and sounded so genuine and earnest. I always felt awkward though, like I didn't have the right way of saying things or that I wasn't good enough and hadn't mastered this particular lesson. There was also the matter that I felt like I was talking to a bunch of silence, like when I was supposed to be talking to someone else, and whatever conception of God I had at the time, it wasn't a personified one anyway, like someone you might have a conversation with. Then, a good bit later on, when I was a hospital chaplain, I ran into the problem again. Apparently, I couldn't avoid this prayer thing. And even though we were technically interfaith chaplains, prayer was a frequent thing that patients and families requested. Now, this wasn't a problem for my Christian colleagues, who seemed to have a grasp on prayer leading far more like Brother Gilbert's, although they tended to offer prayer before it was asked for, like right the moment they walked into the room, and they had to be talked down from that. On the other hand, I started out dreading requesting someone dreading somebody requesting a prayer, given that I was still fairly ambivalent about leading them. But I had to anyways. We were interfaith chaplains and met people where they were for their traditions. And since they usually asked for one after we had talked for a bit, I had a sense of their own religious vocabulary. So I was able to add in their names for God, along with a vague, loving universe that holds us all, which I included for my own sake. And then prayed for their strength and healing and courage and family. It often seemed like just a bunch of words to me, but then again, it wasn't about me. And to a person, it was meaningful for them. And I started to find more and more meaning through the meaning that I saw it was for them. I created the space and they made all the connections that they needed. Many of us have a history with some form or forms of prayer. And you may have a prayer practice that resembles some of those forms or one that is entirely different. Or you may not have an explicit prayer practice at all. So I'd like us to turn our focus on how we might consider prayer and prayer practices from a Unitarian Universalist perspective. Now, Unitarian Universalism is fabulous in a whole lot of ways. And a couple of those are that we are a big tent theologically. We welcome a lot of different views and beliefs. And we also welcome wisdom from many of the world's religious and spiritual traditions. Then there's also our encouragement to the spiritual seeking and spiritual paths of each of our members. Well, the encouragement and ideally the accountability to also be actively working on those spiritual paths. So we're a big tent and welcome many different beliefs and much spiritual wisdom. We encourage you to keep seeking out the truths and the right practices for you. And how this relates to prayer is that we really want every single one of our members, every single one who finds a spiritual home in our walls and within our walls, to find a spiritual practice or practices that work for you. And it's fine that those spiritual practices may be drawn from a number of sources. Different types of prayer may be spiritual and deepening practices that may be meaningful for you on your path. Should also bear mentioning that there are many different types of prayer. The classic 7 types in Christianity are adoration, praise, thanksgiving, penitence, oblation, intercession, and petition. Some forms of Judaism name 4 types of prayer: thanks, confession, praise, and petition, which actually, the names sound fairly similar in intent to the other 7. Then you'll have different overall types of prayer, like contemplative prayer, and there are so many other and so many of the world's religious traditions. I'm truly just naming a few here. Now, these are all well and good, and we'll get to applying some of these different types with a UU twist in just a bit. But there's also another sense that I want to talk about today. There is the difference between praying, like the types of prayer that I just mentioned, and being in the state of prayer. Saying prayers and prayer, they are related but different things. Austrian Benedictine monk David Stendel-Rast summarizes what he means by prayer. This is the state of prayer. He summarizes it with 2 words. What he says is, wake up. That's prayer. Using a few more than 2 words, he goes on to describe it like this. Do you have a body? Don't sit on the porch. Go out and walk in the rain. If you're in love, then why are you asleep? Wake up. You have slept millions and millions of years. Why not wake up this morning? Prayer. Here's what UU minister Manish Mishra Marzetti says about being in prayer. He says, in going inward, prayer is an opportunity for mindful noticing of my fears, my dreams, my sense of gratitude. With that deeper noticing of my inner life comes the opportunity to name and share those parts of me, to invite others and the holy into deeper relationship with me. In reaching out through prayer to all that is, to God, the universe, the vastness of time and space of which we are a part, and reaching out through prayer, I place myself in both a larger context and a larger relationship. I am part of all that is, distinct yet inseparable, held yet free. I invite every atom, every molecule, every scene, everything seen and everything unseen to bear witness and support me in my prayer. Those are both big and cosmic, all of time in the universe, and also waking up to the moment every day and all around us, just like breathing is. This is prayer, and it's not the same thing as saying prayers. It is just waking up to the presence of God or the universe and listening inward, wherever we are, whatever we may be doing. Even biting into a particularly fragrant peach can be a moment of prayer, or taking a walk in the sun or in the rain, waking up to being alive and to our connections with the universe and with God. Now, saying prayers and these words of prayers do have their place, as they can help us to get to that state of being in prayer. Saying a prayer of gratitude before biting into that marvelous peach can enable our shift in attention and attention. Structured prayers and the different types of prayer can help us focus and settle and connect. That's something I never did quite get in my Southern Baptist youth, because I was still wondering what those right words would be. The truth is, there are no right words. There don't even need to be words, but they might be able to help. Unitarian Universalist minister Eric Walker Wickstrom designed a structured UU prayer practice to try to bridge some of these gaps for us UUs. I really like this prayer practice and prayer bead practice because it is grounded in some solid theological understandings of prayer, and also it lets each of us customize it for ourselves and choose ways to connect with the ideas in ways that speak for us and where we are right now in our own spiritual beliefs. In a minute, I'll invite you to join me in going through the entire structured prayer. What I hope is that you'll take from here a thought or two about prayer, perhaps some interest in finding a type of prayer that will work for you, either enhancing one you may already practice or exploring new possibilities. Wickstrom's prayer practice goes through some different types of worded prayers, and I've selected inclusive wording for each of them with a nod to some various spiritual traditions as we embrace the wisdom in them. And also, I have a breath practice in between each of the segments that is from Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. Then, in a little bit, our closing hymn will be another practice that some might think of as a prayer practice, certainly as a type of spiritual practice. The Loving Kindness hymn from our Teal Hymnal, which is a musical version of the Buddhist metta, or the Loving Kindness meditation. Prayer is an ancient spiritual tool, a practice that may be structured or free-form, a conversation with the holy divinity and spirit of love that surrounds us, a sense of awareness, of attention, of intention, by which we connect with the sacred and holy around us and within us. I invite you to join in to exploring various forms of prayer with curiosity and joy. Let's try one out right now. And now we'll share a time together, a UU prayer practice. So I invite you to join with me now in prayer. Close your eyes if you wish and settle deep into yourself. Breathe deep into your center and focus your attention inward. Be still. Stretch out yourself and your knowing to touch the spirit of life and love. Open around you to touch the universe and life that surrounds all of us. Open my eyes that I might see your face in everyone I meet. Open my ears that I might hear your voice in whatever form it takes, O universe, O God. Open my hands that I might freely give whatever is mine to share. Open my heart, O God, that I might live and love more fully in you, you who created me, you who redeemed me, you who sustain me. First, we name. We name the ancient and ageless Spirit, Mother and Father of all, gods and goddesses of old, all Buddhas throughout space and time, spirits, saints, and sages, wise ones who have gone before us. We lift up that which we are for which we are grateful and that which gives us joy. Take a moment to lift these up within yourself. And now allow your breath to follow with my words. In, out. Deep, slow, calm, ease. Smile, release. Present moment, wonderful moment. Next, we know ourselves. Where are some places in your life that aren't quite right? Some places where you may be off course from your life's direction or from your priorities or values. Where have you fallen short? Take a moment to bring these to your mind, to lift them up from yourself. Now let your breath follow these words. In, out. Deep, slow. Calm, ease. Smile, release. Present moment, wonderful moment. Now we listen. I invite you to open your mind and your heart, your whole being, to the truth and the divine that are outside of yourself. I invite us to sit in silence for a few moments and listen to what we may hear. Follow your breaths in and out, or count them as you breathe, or simply sit in silence. Listen. Listen, both to inside yourself as well as without. Listen and see what you may hear. Breathing together, in, out. Deep, slow, calm, ease. Smile, release. Present moment, wonderful moment. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. Bring into your heart and your mind's eye those who are in need of love, of this love right now. We rest in this love. Together, we rest in this love. Amen, and blessed be.
As always, UUCB needs your gifts and support as we continue to make ours a vibrant and loving community, inspiring spiritual growth and justice and lives of integrity and service. We also hope you will continue to practice generosity, especially with our Good Neighbor organizations. This month, we're sharing half of our offerings with GRIP, the Greater Richmond Interfaith Project, to support the good work they do in our wider community. GRIP seeks to eradicate homelessness and revitalize the West County community through case management, enrichment, and training opportunities to help stabilize low to moderate income community members. UUCB has been a staunch friend of GRIP for more than 50 years. Prior to the pandemic, church members financed, prepared, and served monthly lunches there, as well as serving dinners and organizing parties for children who live in GRIP's family shelter. GRIP is very active during the pandemic. You can learn more at the website gripcares.org. Please know that your offering of any value is received with gratitude. Details on how to give electronically will appear on your screen as the offertory begins. Thank you.
Growing up in Kensington, I had expectations of what I wanted from a man. I made a whole list and I promised myself I would try to stick to that list if I can. He had to be tall and dark and handsome, with a smile as bright as day. He had to be smart and very studious. I know it seems cliche. He had to be great at cooking dinner. He had to cuddle in the winter. I thought I could find my perfect man. Well, I traveled the world and I had expectations of what I wanted from a man. I made a whole list and I promised myself I would try to stick to that list if I can. And when I finally thought I'd found him, with his smile as bright as day, he was a fabulous conductor and he loved opera and ballet and he dressed in all the best clothes and he was great at cooking dinner. But what made it not okay? Well, he told me he was gay. And I thought, why, God, did you do this to me? It seems like the whole world has someone else except for me. When I came to this church, I had expectations of what I wanted from a man. I made a whole list and I promised myself I would try to stick to that list if I can. And when the time came that I gave up all my hopes of finding someone, I canceled Match.com and all those UU singles dinners. I finally found that someone who could cuddle in the winter, and to my surprise, her name was Suzanne. And I thought, why, God, did you do this to me? But now that I've found her, I can see that you were just holding out for me.
Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate ourselves and this offering to the mission of this congregation: to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. I hope it's been nourishing for you to be together with us in song and prayer today, even in these strange circumstances. Before we shift to our virtual coffee hour on Zoom, I'd like to encourage you to stay informed about and involved in all that's going on in our congregation by exploring our website, uucb.org. Among other things, you can find a link in News to The Week Ahead, our weekly email newsletter, which contains a nice list of upcoming activities. As we prepare to leave our worship service, here are a few important announcements, but please remember that the week ahead may include additional information. First, Personal Theology will meet via Zoom next Sunday, October 18th at 9:20 a.m. Reverend Craig Scott, UUCB member and co-founder of the Social Justice Council, will speak on why have so many Christians forgotten Jesus in the age of COVID-19. See the Beacon and the Week Ahead for details and Zoom link. The Good Neighbor program needs your help to identify local nonprofits, like GRIP, who might benefit from our donations. We need to select our 2021 roster now, and we are collecting nominations until October 31st. Please send your suggestions to Natalie Campbell. Third, please consider shopping at smile.amazon.com and choosing Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley as your favorite charitable organization. Amazon will donate part of the proceeds to UUCB at no cost to you. Make sure to search for Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley, not UUCB. Finally, a reminder that Friday happy hour social time on Zoom will take place this Friday, October 16th at 5 p.m. See the Week Ahead for a link. And now, please join in singing our closing song, Filled with Loving Kindness. The words will be on screen. Thank you.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled
be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
May we now go with courage and grounding, hungry for a curiosity that challenges us and changes us, knowing our answers are never complete, and the questions that we ask make us whole. Go now with courage, with hope, with love and curiosity. And remember, you are never all alone. Blessed be.